Yeah.
Hi, my name is
Yeah.
Doris Davis, and I've been married for 36 years. We have three children, one son and two daughters. Today I have my daughters with me, and I'm going to allow them to introduce themselves.
Hi, my name is Courtney Walden. I've been married for almost 8 years and I have two kids, one daughter who's 5 years old and a son who's 2. Hi, my name is Jessica Hall. This is my second marriage. We've been married for 3 years and we have a blended family with 5 children.
Hi, my name is Stephanie Davis, and I've been married for 8 months now, so I'm newlywed, but we don't have any kids, but we do have a new addition to the family, our dog Kuno. So no kids anytime soon for right now, but I think the dog's enough right now.
Seen since tied shoes. Yup. All my friends told me that I'm the man.
What's the first thing that you notice about a person?
I notice teeth and shoes. Teeth is pretty self-explanatory, but as far as shoes go, I kind of think in terms of your presentation matters. So it's kind of the same, put your best foot forward. And so that's one of the things that I look at. You don't have to have like name brand shoes. You ain't got to be walking around in J's and everything like that. But your shoes need to be, well kept, clean. There shouldn't be the same shoes you cutting grass in and you're going to go introduce yourself to somebody.
Yeah,
so that's one of the things
I agree strongly with one of those. Teeth is a major thing for me, and partially because I work in the dental field, but I think also I could never see myself being romantic with someone that doesn't take care of their mouth. I look at it and say, I never kiss you. We could never be anything because I just feel like that's nasty. Mm-hmm. And then my other thing is hands. I look at people's fingernails, and I feel like if a man pays attention to his hands and details to making sure they're clean, it kind of shows me his hygiene and cleanliness. So,
What if he's a mechanic?
no excuse for not having clean, kept hands. Mm-hmm. I understand my husband worked with cars and around oil and things like that. You can still clean them. It might not be, just the prettiest hands in the world. It might not be a hand model, but they can be clean. Yeah.
You mentioned the teeth. Both of you all mentioned teeth.
Mm-hmm.
Are you saying they have to have a perfect set of teeth?
They need to have a full set of teeth. They need to have all their teeth.
And they do not need to be rotten.
And they need to be clean. My thing is going to the dentist on a regular basis for routine checkups, brushing and flossing your teeth. And I mean, just like we're talking now, I'm looking at your mouth while we're talking. That's my thing. That's what I'm going to look at. And so I just couldn't, be in a relationship with someone that I don't want to even see your mouth.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
And I would say kind of like attire, appearance as well. Presentation is everything. Mm-hmm. So the way that you dress, like whether that's for work, you have to always think that your first impression is going to be the last impression for everyone. Mm-hmm. And I also look heavily at like confidence. So if you can carry yourself well in public, even behind closed doors, whatever the case may be, I feel like that your confidence says a lot about you. And I feel like there's a difference between confidence and cockiness. Right. So I think that if you're very confident in yourself and you know yourself well, I think that would definitely show in your demeanor. So I think that's important.
That's good.
So let's say you actually meet somebody and you've been dating. Let's say you've gone a few dates, 5 to 10 dates. What are the deal breakers for you all? I know for me, it's a case of if you don't have drive, ambition, you don't have a good work ethic. That speaks volumes to me, because if my expectation for myself is that I can be a hardworking person and that I have goals in life, I expect the same thing out of the person that I'm in a relationship with. We got to be going somewhere.
Right.
We just can't just stay in limbo. And
like people say now, you got to match my hustle.
Right. Right.
I get it.
So,
well, I kind of agree with it. I look at it more along the lines of you got to have a plan. And while you're trying to put that plan into place, do something. So I get what you're saying. But I always say I want to follow someone with a plan. And I think women a lot of times are accused of, she's just trying to be a strong woman. She's so independent. She won't let me help her. I can't lead her because she won't follow and let me be the man. I think women actually want to follow. They want to follow, but it's just
somebody that's
exactly. You're going somewhere. You have a plan. You know where you're wanting to go. So that's mine.
Yeah, I would say I think that the biggest thing for me is if I'm the one driving the conversation, I need someone who's going to be able to hold a conversation, not only with me, but if it's family and friends too. If I'm at a work event, I don't want you just tagging along right behind me. Right. You need to be able to communicate with other people. And maybe that's just because I'm a communication major. Like communication is huge for me, but I feel like you need to be able to hold your own in any environment. Right. So that's what I would say.
And not so clingy kind of.
Right. So you're basically saying if you're a person and
you have to go to a work function.
Yeah.
You want the person to be able to fit in and make
Exactly.
conversation
Exactly.
with
And
people.
it could be small talk, but you
Mhm.
still should be able to take the initiative to kind of go out. And I think taking initiative is a huge thing anyway.
Yeah, that's
and,
true.
and engaging in the relationship or the
Mhm.
dating process, and then once you're in it too, taking initiative in other areas as well. So
And I like what Jessica said, not clingy.
yeah.
You know, nobody wants somebody that you feel like you have to be right with them all the
Right.
time,
Right.
or they are incomplete. You know,
Yeah.
Right.
and I think the thing for me is trust.
Okay.
Because I look at a thing and say, I want somebody that's very transparent, that can open up, that can share. And I'm the type of person, if I find out that you are not truthful about something, then everything that you say after that, I start
Right.
wondering, yeah, are you being
Yeah.
honest and open about everything?
Right.
Very good. Some things that I jotted down that I would like for us to discuss, and these are things that we need to discuss before the I do's,
Right.
before we get to that part of getting married. And the first thing is finances. How much of finances do you all feel?
Before you get
Everything.
married, yes, I agree. Now, I think it comes in stages.
Mhm.
Like if you're newly dating, no, you're not going to divulge all of your financial,
Right.
you know, information to this
Mhm.
person. But if you're getting to the point you're seriously dating and you're considering marriage with this person,
Right.
there needs to be a level of transparency.
Especially if you're looking at marriage, that means what I have is yours, what you have is mine, and I'm going to be connected to you. And that's the good and the bad.
What about a credit report?
I want that. I want to know that, all that information, because I look at it and say, I may not want to attach myself to a crazy amount of debt.
Mhm.
You know, and I feel like in a relationship, that's your choice.
Right.
You know, don't sucker me into a relationship because I didn't have all the facts.
Right.
And
Right,
now,
right.
you know, you end up with resentment and things like that in relationships.
Not only that, once you say I do, in the eyes of the law, you know, that debt, their debt is now your debt, no
Mhm.
matter what.
Mhm.
And if something were to happen and, you know, you were to go get divorced or something like that, you have to disclose all of your
Right.
financial information.
Yeah.
So just because you have to do that then, I feel like you need to do that on the forefront as well.
Mhm.
Because you all are now linked as one in so many different ways that information is important to have
Mhm.
before you say I do.
Like you said, I feel like it comes in stages too. Like obviously, you're not going to fully disclose all that
Right.
information on your first date,
Right.
but as you move forward into the relationship stuff, obviously that's some things that need
Right.
to be discussed.
Right.
And I also think that when you look at debt in particular, I feel like there's some debt that you say, okay, this seems like this could,
Workable.
yeah,
Right.
it's workable, or you kind of understand where that came from. But I think
Right.
that also goes with how responsible are you.
Mhm.
That if you just have unnecessary debt that could have been prevented,
Exactly.
then I think that brings up a whole nother conversation.
Not
Mhm.
only that, how do you manage your money?
Exactly.
Like, you may have just started out, so you're living paycheck to paycheck,
Yeah.
but are you spending foolishly
Right.
during
That you don't need.
that time
Are you
period?
saving?
Exactly.
Right? Or are you legitimately saying I'm budgeting myself because this is what I have coming in,
Mhm.
Right.
this is what I need, I have going out, so I've got to make smart
Yeah.
decisions. Or
Mhm.
a new pair of shoes comes out and you
Yeah.
want them, and you're willing
Exactly.
to say I'm not going to pay my rent
But
so that I can go get these shoes.
exactly.
You know,
So
that
for me, I'm like, what does your savings account look like right,
Right,
now?
right,
To see
right,
like what other outside of other expenses, what have you been putting in just in case? Because for
Right.
me, I feel like relationship, marriage or not, you still need to have something like a just in
Right.
case pal, because anything can happen at any
Mhm.
given reason, whether that's
Right.
your car, whether that's health stuff, anything.
Mhm.
You need to be able to have funds to cover that. And I think that just kind of shows like
And I
responsibility.
think this is not just for, as women talking, looking for it for a man's
Mhm.
point, you know, but a man wants to see this from a woman
Exactly.
as well.
Right. Right, I agree.
I do too.
Okay, the next thing is family health. How much should you share in family health?
Again, I think that's
I think
kind of
everything
like
needs to be out on the
stages.
table.
Yeah, but it's in stages.
Yeah,
you know,
I
if you
agree.
get to the point where you're again seriously considering marriage with this person, those are things you need to discuss.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, you need to know what type of things run in their family history,
Mhm.
you know, so that you're prepared and you're making a conscious decision
I
Mhm.
completely
that you want to
agree.
be with this
Yeah.
person.
And for myself, like I said, I have a blended family.
Mm-hmm.
You know, my husband came into the relationship with 3 children, and I already had one. And, you know, these were from previous marriages, but we looked at it and said, you know, I need to know, I'm with the children most of the time.
Right.
I need to know what allergies, what health risks, you know, all this kind of stuff. I need to know it. You know, it's important, not only for that, but I even looked at if we wanted more children. And we now have another son, but I have a sickle cell trait. That was necessary for me to know his health history.
Right.
Because that means we could have given, our child could have had sickle cell.
Mm-hmm.
So I look at it and say, I need to know all the health risks with you.
Right.
And, we're clear out there to say, I want to know all your health history. We laid all that out again before, the I do's.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And I think based off of your discussion with the health issues, then you can say, okay, does it make sense for us to have kids at this point? And that's another conversation you have. But at least you would know how to handle it if you're in that situation.
Right.
You have to think about things with mental disorders, or you have to think about, just different things like that. You just want to be aware of Down syndrome.
In addition to that, when they disclose this financial information, not just from their family history, it's about themselves too.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's important to be upfront. In today's society, a lot of people don't want to share that information before they get married. And if it's something that they have, you need to make sure that you're aware of that before you get married, because you don't want to go into something and you later find out 5 years down the road that you've been, making yourself prone to getting any type of disease or something because you didn't know about it. So I think all of that is important for us.
Well, I've got a question for everyone. How early is too early to ask these things? Now, we're all saying, okay, well, there's stages. But again, a lot of time there's a stigma with women that, well, see, she might have been a good woman, but I go into the relationship and date 3, she's already wanting to know, like, my whole plan for the next 10 years.
You don't do it on date 1.
Or
date 3. I think it's a subtle way to ask these questions as you're going through the dating process. Now, finances, people are not going to just disclose that anytime soon. Some of this you just watch and you can see about a person. But in addition to that, I think it's also age. The younger you are, these questions might not be as,
they're not as important.
Right. Right. But if you're dating and you're older, these are some of the questions that you tend to want to get out out in the forefront. So, I think all of those are factors. I would tell anybody, you do not ask this on the first date.
And I think you can always tell when you're getting to that point of you're spending a lot of time together. You're talking about, do you think we'll ever get married or children? You know when the conversation and when the relationship is getting to that point.
Great time. Like I said, it's going to be subtle anyway. You don't want to just blatantly
go to them with a questionnaire.
What's your debt? How much is your debt? Just go kind of think. Like, you want to make sure it's like natural. The whole process of a relationship should be natural in the first place.
What all should you ask about their friends? And when I wrote this down, I was thinking about, are you thinking about, is this a person that on the weekends they want to hang out with friends all the time, or they have to have friends around them all the time? So how much or what do you need to know about the person's friends?
I think personally that kind of goes along with what stage you're in your life. I look at it and say, I'm 31 now, but if I were out on the dating scene, I'm not going to be wanting to do what a lot of younger 20s are wanting to do. Plus the stage I'm in, I have kids. My weekend consists of, baths, bedtime stories, laundry. I'm trying to get ready for the next week. I got to iron uniforms. So my weekend is not going to look like anybody else. As well as even other men my age. If they're wanting somebody and they have no kids, they're probably not going to be interested in ironing clothes and doing a laundry, a laundry room full of laundry either. So I think it depends on what you're looking for and what stage of your life you're in also.
I also feel as though if you are dating somebody and all they want to do is hang out with friends every single weekend, you've got to know yourself. If that's not your life and that's not your desire, it's more than likely it's going to be a deal breaker if that's their personality. Some people just are not comfortable being by themselves at all. And that's their personality. Wouldn't work well with me. You got to learn how to be by yourself because I don't have the personality where I'm going out every single weekend to do anything. Some weekends I just want to stay at home, period. With kids, I want to stay at home. But if you're not there, I think that's where you've got to know in your own stage of life, is this something that I want or I can deal with, or is this something that's just not me and it's not going to work?
And I feel like age is a thing, but I think also just like in relationships in general, I think it depends on, we talk about like going out and stuff, if you're in a relationship and you're not. I think when you're single, okay, yes, you probably go out and things like that, but I think it changes. Like your dynamics change as a person when you become in a relationship. You don't really have the desire to go out as much as you probably used to. And I've noticed that even in my own relationship when my husband and I were dating. Our friends were like, well, why don't you guys hang out anymore? And it was just a different mindset that you have once you start dating
because
someone.
you're trying to get to know the person.
Exactly. You know your friends already. Then you're trying to get to know that other person at this point. So you're going to spend more time with them as you should. So,
and with each, as you transition in your relationship, dating and so forth, engagement, marriage, your circle of friends will actually change. And in some cases it decreases because what you're doing and the stage of life that you're in, your friends might not be on that same level at that point in time. So you're going to see, I think things shift and change all along.
And I have a question. Since we're on the topic of friends, how important do you think is privacy in a relationship as it relates to your friends? Because I've seen a lot of things happen where you tell your friends things about your relationship, and especially if they're single, I think they have a different mindset about how you should go about your relationship. Rather than the person in the relationship. So what do you guys think about it?
I know something my mom always told us is you don't tell your friends what's going on in your relationship. One, let's just say the devil's advocate part. That one friend could say, oh, no, girl, I wouldn't take that. I wouldn't take that. You need to let him go. And then that'd be the very friend, months on down the road who's going after that guy. So you have to be careful with that. I think if you're in a dating relationship and it's serious, maybe you need to find a mentoring couple. If it's not your parents, somebody that is in a solid relationship, marital relationship, I would suggest that you can go to and say, hey, this is what's going on. This is our issue at hand. What do you suggest?
I think that's good. I don't really have much to add to that. I think it's a no-no as far as friends, telling friends your business, just because my mom used to always tell us, even with your spouse, it may be something that they've done that you may have hated, and inventing to someone else, you just went off and told them, I can't believe you did this. I can't believe Well, you get over it and you still love your spouse. But if they really love you, they look at that person then as you're the person that hurt someone I love. And they can never get over that. You've gotten over it and they can't forgive them and see them how you see them anymore.
Exactly. And just jumping off that, I remember in college, I had a friend, she had been dating her boyfriend for a while. They're married now. But I never remember her saying one bad thing about him. And because she never said anything about him, I couldn't judge. He could have been doing God knows what, but I never knew it, so I couldn't judge him. So when it came to the wedding time, I was like, oh, I'm so happy for him. I was like, because it wasn't anything that I could be mad at him for. So, like I said, to this day, I still don't know anything that's wrong in their relationship. So,
well, with that, how do you handle disagreements in relationships? Is there a right and a wrong? Who has to say, I'm sorry when there's something that comes up? How do you handle those disagreements?
Well, I was raised in a Christian home, so I was always taught that you go to the Word of God, and that is the foundation that you make all your decisions. And I used to always tell my husband that, him being the man of the household, and I would always tell him, I would always tell him, you better make sure you're hearing from God on the decision, because I'm going to follow you and the children are following you. So I would always tell him, you make sure you're hearing from God. We will follow you, but you better make sure you're hearing from God.
You hear that? Just put it all on him.
So I do believe that, yes, you have checks and balances with the Word of God.
Now, one thing I'll say is, in a dating relationship, how you handle conflict versus how you handle it in a marital relationship, I think it's different. You're dating, obviously, the model, I believe, is you're not living together. So if you have a disagreement, he can go to his house, you can go to your house, and,
let it die down.
Right. Then by the time you want to see each other again, you're over it. When you're married, it doesn't happen like that. You're living under the same roof, so you've got to find practical conflict resolutions, to handle things. I believe in it's not a sleeping on the couch thing. You're not banishing somebody. You go to the couch because I'm upset. You don't have the authority to do that. That's both of your household. The other thing is you don't have disagreements or arguments in front of your children. You're not going to raise your voice at me. I'm not going to raise my voice at you. I think there are certain rules you need to lay as foundations. We can disagree, but we don't have to be volatile when we're doing things.
You have to agree to disagree.
Right. And I think it changes as your relationship grows because, a first year marital disagreement, it can
You're
escalate.
still trying to figure out things.
If you don't know those boundaries. At this stage, I know for my husband and myself at this stage, it's not those type arguments and disagreements. It's more or less like, I don't agree. Well, okay.
And
you
you learn
just
how to pick and choose your battles.
Right.
You say, well, this one is not that important to me. I still think I'm right, but okay, you go along.
You can let it go, And then when it is a serious issue, okay, to say, we need to sit down and talk about this. And you do it when both of you can be calm, cool and collected and have a conversation.
I think that's the key right there. Is you talk before it gets to that that hollering at each other stage. And you have to know when to sit down and talk about things as adults. And be able to articulate what's going on, how you're feeling, what led up to those things.
And don't be afraid to say you're sorry when you're wrong.
Yes, and that's very important. Be able to say, I'm sorry, I apologize, I can tell I hurt you in what I said or what I did. And you have to always realize that this person, this spouse, after you're married, they're part of you.
Right.
So when you say something negative and hurt that person, you're hurting yourself.
Right.
Very good question.
With all of the discussion about when it's too soon to talk about finances and different things of that nature, how early do you discuss sex in a relationship?
Okay. I don't believe in sex before marriage. But I do feel like once you get to that point where there's a ring and you start talking about the engagement and getting married, I believe that you should talk about sex. You should find out talk about how often you expect to have sex because sex is very important in a marriage. So I think if you need to start talking about this before, once you give the girl the ring, I think you start talking about it.
Because if you don't, I think you open the doorway for disagreements to come in, and it could be over anything, but that's the root of the issue. And because you're not fulfilling the other's, needs in that, or vice versa, whomever it is, because you're not addressing that, you leave yourself open to vulnerability and so many other issues. So I think it's something that you need to sit down and agree upon. The other thing is, if he's thinking like 5 times a week, and you're like, no, that's not realistic. Let's really think of a realistic number. I think you all need to sit down and talk and come to that, agreement, and then make it a point to adhere to that. You can't say, oh, we just got so busy then, and weeks go by. You need to make it a point. That's for marriages. I think it's important because it keeps you connected and focused, and it keeps the attention, elsewhere from going elsewhere. So I think it's something.
Yeah, you don't want to open up the door for the enemy. So I believe that if you have a number and you come up to an agreement on that number, because like she shared, if one is saying 5 and the other one is saying 1, we only need it every other week. That's an extreme difference. You need to address that before you get married, because after you get married, it becomes a problem. So if you discuss this and have an agreement and then keep to that agreement after you're married, I believe that it causes your relationship to run smoothly. And when I say it opens the door for the enemy, when you don't fulfill that what you've called, you've set up, you open up the door for the enemy for one or the other person to start looking at. All it takes is somebody from the opposite sex saying, I like what you have on today.
I'm going to look at it and say, you're the enemy. Get away.
I often say that men are moved by what they see. Women are moved by what we hear. So, we would hate to be women that say, okay, we didn't adhere to that number. We have not kept our end of the bargain on that. And then they see a woman who's walking past and she has on little to nothing, and she's brushing up against him, and she's always making herself available because that causes their imaginations to wander. And the same thing goes for women. Men can't not make it a point to have that intimacy there.
They can't get so busy that
for women, we're moved by what we hear. It takes a man coming and saying,
that's what I would say. Now, men, I feel like it has to be that balance, because we're saying, okay, the rule is we're going pick a number. We come to some kind of agreement on what we think is fair. Now, I agree, women, we need to be willing to stick with it. And I only say that because most of the time, men are going to want to do it whenever they can, you know.
They
Sick, I got the flu, I still go for it, you know. But a lot of times, women, we are, you know, I'm tired. I will pick sleep over sex, you know. It's just like, I really ain't slept. I'm asleep, you know. So we're good with it. But I look at it and say, now, if we're willing to do that, he also has to realize, you know, foreplay or talking nice to me. Don't
gotta be
not
intimacy.
speak to me all day and then
It cannot,
we gotta make our number.
we ain't made the number, you know.
it cannot be, and it goes back to the household responsibilities.
Right.
If he's come in from work and he's relaxed on that couch and you've had to take care of all 5 of those children and you've had to
Oh,
iron
you better
those
throw that
uniforms,
number right on out the window.
and iron those uniforms and all that time, if the man is relaxing and he's already had downtime, and then as soon as you come to bed, okay, come on. That
Right,
is not
not
an
right.
ideal situation
Right.
that's going to make me want to be
You
romantic.
have no
and
time
intimate with
to
you.
unwind
Yes,
from the
yes.
day's activity
Yes.
or anything like that. So you cannot, you know, it goes both ways. If men want sex, they got to make, you know, the situation, you know, a pleasant one and not just, okay, we got to make our
Routine,
number. This
yeah.
is what we
Right,
do, you know,
right.
because that opens a door also to resentment.
Yes.
You don't
Yes.
want it to be a situation where she's resenting, you know, being intimate with you
Right.
or anything like that,
Mhm.
because that's just going to continue to tear you all apart.
Mhm.
So it's got to be, you know, a give and take
Right.
situation
That's good.
ongoing.
Right.
You know.
Right. And if it could be just a few minutes of separation time from your household duties to run a bathtub full of water, do something
Yeah.
to let me know, okay, we're leading up to this.
Yes.
You know.
And sometimes it's like,
Just stop and ask her, how was your day today?
Mhm.
Tell me about your day.
For me, the sexiest thing to hear, can I get the kids down for you?
You got it.
I got baths tonight. I got their baths tonight. I was like, yes. You know, that's it.
Say,
for me.
come on, Daddy.
There you go.
If I call your phone and Jordan is taking a bath, I'm going to say, I'll talk to you later.
I'll catch you tomorrow.
No, you don't say anything. You just
Bye. That's all we have for today on Making It Last. Please join us next time when we dive deeper into the early years of marriage. If you have any questions that you would like for us to answer, you can email us at makingitlastmodernday@gmail.com. Again, that's makingitlastmodernday@gmail.com. Until then, God bless.
You'll be my only girl.